friends. So today we are going to talk about some animals that live in the Piedmont where we live. So just a reminder, as I scroll back, the Piedmont is the middle region or the middle part of our state, and Durham is in the Piedmont. So yesterday we talked about plants that live in the Piedmont, like the magnolia tree, honeysuckle, and the longleaf pine tree. Today, we're going to talk about 3 animals who make their home in the Piedmont. So their habitat can be found in the Piedmont. The first one is the gray squirrel. Now, I know that all of us have seen this squirrel around our neighborhoods or around Hillendale. And this squirrel is the North Carolina official state mammal. Now, what is a mammal? What makes an animal a mammal? Let's think. Well, we know that mammals have live babies. They do not hatch from eggs like oviparous animals do. They have live babies. They have warm blood, and the babies drink milk from their mommies. So this gray squirrel can live in forests, it can live in cities, it can live in parks, and it can even live in our neighborhoods if there are just a couple of trees there for it to live. So something that's really cool about the gray squirrel is that really it can live anywhere where there are a few trees. And so that's why we see a lot of gray squirrels around the Piedmont, is because we have a lot of places that have trees. They eat lots of different things. They eat nuts and seeds and tree buds, so like right before the tree flowers, insects, mushrooms, and sometimes, sadly, it will even eat bird eggs. In the fall, they do something called scatter hoarding. That's when they take all of the nuts and all of the seeds that they've gathered and they bury them everywhere to prepare for the winter. And so sometimes the squirrels will forget to go back and get their nuts, or they'll forget where they buried them. And sometimes those nuts that they buried will get stolen, or they might turn into new trees and shrubs and bushes the next year. So if they plant, a nut that came from a tree, then that could be a seed that grows into a new tree the next few years. The next animal that lives in the Piedmont is called the white-tailed deer. So remember that one time that we had our fire drill and we went outside and we saw deer right at the edge of the forest next to the school? So those were white-tailed deer. And why do you think they're called white-tailed deer? Take a look at the picture. Do you see the underside of its short tail, the bottom part of it? It's white. And so when a white-tailed deer senses danger, when it's a little afraid, you can see the white part of the tail come up and it will wag a little bit when it's feeling a little scared, when it sees that there might be some danger. A white-tailed deer can eat 7 pounds of food every day. That is a lot of food. And the bucks, or the male or boy deer, they can weigh up to 300 pounds. And does, the female deer, are about half the size of a doe. They can be about 125 pounds. And a white-tailed deer can run really, really fast. That's why as soon as the deer saw us coming out of the door for our fire drill, it bolted back into the woods. It can run really fast, and it can also jump almost 10 feet tall. So it can almost jump as tall as 2 Miss Case, that is really tall. And they can live to be about 10 years old. And so they are also a mammal. They give birth to live babies, and their babies are called fawns, and they can have up to 4 fawns. And the second picture at the bottom, this is a picture of a fawn that's laying in the grass. You know that it's a fawn because it has lots of white dots on top. So if you see a really small deer that still has these white dots, these white splotches, that means it's a really young deer. It's still a fawn. It's a baby. The bucks, the boy deer, have lots of antlers. You can see the antlers on the bucks at the top. And they actually use those antlers to fight off other deers. So if they have to use them when something else is attacking them or is coming into their territory where they live, or they might use it to protect their family. Deer usually come out at dawn, so really early in the morning when the first sunlight is coming out, and they come out again at dusk, which is when the sun is going down. And they're partially nocturnal. So we learned about what the word nocturnal means. What does nocturnal mean? It means they're awake during the nighttime, just like an owl or a bat. So deer are only partially or a little bit nocturnal. So you can still see them out in the daytime, but they do spend a lot of the nighttime awake. The last animal we're going to talk about today is the red-shouldered hawk. And so a hawk is a type of bird. It's a predator bird. So remember, a predator is an animal that attacks or eats other animals. And so they're very big. They have really long tails. You can see that in the first picture. And their bodies are really heavy. So they're not very skinny birds. So the female or the girl hawks are actually bigger than the boy hawks. And you can see the feathers are red and white, but the upper part of their feathers towards their body, you can see that it's a reddish orange color. And that's why it's called a red-shouldered hawk, because that looks like the part of their body that would be their shoulders. They like to live in forests and swamps, and we have some of those around the Piedmont, but they like to build their nests really tall up in the air, and they like to build them in the branches of trees in kind of wet areas. And so they like to have lots of trees nearby because they want to perch so that they can see the forest floor. Now, why do you think they would want to see the forest floor? Think of some things that they might find on the forest floor. They might find their prey. But red-shouldered hawks, they don't live to be very old. They only live to be about 2 years old. So they are not around for a very long time. But some of the things that they might find on the forest floor that they like to eat are rabbits and squirrels and snakes and lizards and toads and frogs. So a red-shouldered hawk is a carnivore. That's why a hawk is a predator bird. And they're only predators, so they don't have very many other animals that want to eat them, but they do have a few. They have the great horned owl, which we learned about the great horned owl when we learned about owls back in October and November. Remember, they have the tufts of hair that make it look like it has horns. And raccoons. Now, a raccoon wouldn't eat a grown-up red-shouldered hawk, but the raccoons can sneak into the nests and they can eat the red-shouldered hawk's eggs. They could eat their babies. So those are the 3 animals that we're talking about from the Piedmont. So we can look at some other plants and animals that live in the Piedmont. So we have raccoons, we have snakes, we have, oh my goodness, we have, looks like pigeons and otters. We have lots of different types of trees. We have ducks. So these are all plants and animals that also live in the Piedmont. So